In every forest, there are places the maps forget. In every bloodline, there are memories that refuse to die. And in the quietest winters, when the wind speaks in tongues and the trees remember your name, some fires rekindle themselves. Tonight, on Mystery Still Prevails, we take you deep into the snows of 1874 New England, to a forgotten settlement where a woman fled her past, a child heard the roots whisper, and a tree bore berries out of season. This is the tale of Ashes of the Rowan. Part 1. The Berries. The winter of 1874 came early to Rowan Hollow. Snow fell thick as wool over the cabins and fir trees, muffling sound and smothering warmth. Martha Bellamy kept the hearth burning night and day, though the woodpile had dwindled to a handful of logs and a few pieces of broken furniture. Her husband, Elias, had gone 2 days earlier into the pines to hunt. He had not returned. She did not expect him to. He was not a cruel man, not in the usual sense. But Elias carried a silence behind his eyes, something hollow and dark, like the mines he used to speak of back west, shafts that swallowed men whole. The village preacher said it was the war that changed him. Martha suspected it was something older. Upstairs, Joan stirred. The girl had not slept through the night in a week. Her fever rose and fell like the tide, and she often spoke in her sleep in a tongue Martha did not recognize. She had never taught her child such words. No one had. That morning, Martha brought in the last log. She noticed something strange out the window. Just beyond the frost-laced pane, past the edge of the hollow where the pines leaned close, a single tree stood bare except for a crown of red berries. It was a rowan, and it should not have been there. No such tree had grown in Rowan Hollow before. She stepped outside, wrapped in a threadbare shawl. Her boots sank into the snow with soft crunches. The wind was silent. The tree was not tall, maybe 15 feet. Its trunk split near the base, forming a crude Y shape. The red berries glistened like drops of blood, untouched by frost. Joan's voice rose behind her. "Don't eat them." Martha turned. The child stood barefoot in the snow. "Joan, get inside!" Martha cried, running back, scooping her into her arms. Joan's skin was cold, but she didn't shiver. Her eyes were not her own. "She's watching again," Joan whispered, "from the roots." Part 2. A Hollowed Name. Elias returned on the third night, not through the front door. Martha found his boots first, soaked and muddy, left by the hearth as if he had merely stepped out for a piss. His rifle leaned against the wall. The fire had gone cold. She found him upstairs, sitting at the edge of Joan's bed. Joan was asleep, her face calm, her fever gone. Elias didn't turn when Martha entered. "I thought you were dead," she said softly. He looked over his shoulder. "Something followed me back." His beard was thick with ice, his cheeks drawn thin, but it was his eyes that made her freeze. They were red, rimmed and gleaming, like something had burned behind them. "I didn't see her face," he whispered, "but I heard her voice, like roots breaking underfoot, like something old learning how to speak again." Martha stepped between him and Joan. "You need to rest." "She asked for you by name," he said. Martha's breath caught. "What name?" He didn't answer. That night, Martha dreamed of fire. Not warmth, not comfort. A ring of women standing beneath a bare tree, chanting, laughing. One stepped forward and drew a blade across her own palm. The blood dripped onto snow, and something below the surface drank it eagerly. Martha woke to the sound of digging. In the morning, she found Elias in the yard, clawing at the frozen earth with bare hands. The rowan tree loomed behind him. "There's something under here," he said. "Something that remembers." Martha pulled Joan close and did not reply. Part 3. Red Bloom. The rowan tree glowed like fire in the grey hush of winter. Martha stared at it from the porch as dawn broke, the frost catching on the branches like silver threads. It should not bloom. Nothing else in Rowan Hollow lived. Not the wheat, not the animals, not even the pines in the far thickets. But the red berries had spread, bright clusters swelling down the limbs like drops of blood. Joan stood beside her barefoot, humming the same lullaby from the night before. Martha knelt beside her. "What do you see when you dream?" Joan looked up, smiling. "I see the hollow before you came, the great circle of stones, the fire in the dark. I see her arms. I see your name, Mother." "I have no name but Martha." "That was never yours," Joan whispered. "He gave it to you when he took you from the red tree." Martha blinked. Her breath clouded the air. She could not remember what her mother had called her before the village took her in. "Do you miss him?" Joan asked. "Who?" "Father." A long pause. "I miss the man I thought he was." Joan took her hand, skin cold as river ice. "He's waiting now." In the roots. That evening, the forest grew loud. Crows, hundreds of them, circled the hilltop, their cries a deafening swarm. Martha bolted the windows, nailed shut the barn. She placed a cross above Joan's bed and burned sage from the pantry. But Joan laughed. She laughed until her mouth ran red. "She's walking now," the girl said, rocking on her heels. "She's coming down the hill." Martha grabbed her, held her still. "Stop it. Stop talking like that." "She showed me what you did, what you were." "I was a child." "No," Joan whispered. "You were a vessel, the last in the circle. You walked into her fire and you left her there. You cut your hair and forgot her name." Martha trembled. Her hand slipped from the child's arm. Joan stared into the flame. "She's going to give it back." That night, Martha dreamed of a fire. She stood in the center of a ring of women, some old, some young, all naked beneath the moon. Their eyes glowed, their lips chanted. A name echoed in the dark, rising from the roots of the Rowan tree. Her name, not Martha, not wife, not mother. A name that tasted of ash and bark and winter. She awoke to silence and the smell of blood. The cellar door was open. She had not opened it. She crept down the stairs, lamp in hand, into the packed earth beneath the cabin. Shadows danced along the walls. The meat hooks were empty. The root vegetables were rotting. The straw was black with mold. And in the far corner, half covered in earth, was a hand. Elias's hand. She screamed, but there was no one to hear her, only Joan above, laughing softly in the dark. Part 4. The Naming. The circle hummed with life. Not warmth. There was no heat here, but something deeper, older. It pulsed beneath the earth like breath beneath skin. The stones glistened with ice, but the red tree swayed though there was no wind. Martha knelt in the center of the circle, bare knees pressed into snow. Her hands shook, her teeth chattered. But the woman before her, the one who wore bark for skin and bone for a crown, only watched. "You were the last of the 13, she whispered. "You took the fire inside you and fled." "I was a child," Martha said. "They took me." "They saved you from nothing," the woman hissed. "They made you empty. They stole your name, and you let them." She touched Martha's chest, her finger sharp and cold. "You were called Angeline. Do you remember now?" The name hit like thunder. Suddenly the cold receded, just a little. The air thickened and the trees leaned closer. The memory did not return all at once. It returned in sensations. Smoke and laughter. Ash under her fingernails. Red berries crushed between her teeth. Dancing barefoot beneath a full moon, surrounded by sisters whose faces she couldn't recall, only their voices. And the woman with the crown, her hand always on Martha's head, a guide, a protector, not a demon, but something else. She had once called her mother, and she had run. That evening, a knock came at the door. Not soft, not wind. A hand, slow and deliberate, striking the wood with rhythm. Martha rose. Joan ran to the window. "It's her," she said. "She wore your skin once. She remembers how it fits." "Get away," Martha hissed, pulling her from the glass. The knock came again. Martha took the Bible. She opened the door. No one stood there, only the snow, the path to the hill, and the trail of bare footprints leading away into the trees. Joan stepped past her, following them barefoot. Martha did not stop her. Part 5. Ember to Ash. The cabin shook as if the forest itself were rising beneath it. Roots burst from floor and wall, crawling like veins, wet and glistening. Martha, Anne Helene, was lifted from the ground by tendrils of the rowan tree that once only watched silently from the hill. Now it had found her again. She hung suspended over the pit. Below her, the roots coiled in spirals around a rising form. Vaguely human, terribly wrong. The thing that had been buried, the one the hollow once called Flame Mother, ancient fire dressed in rot. "I'm not yours," she screamed. But she was. She had been from the moment the Sisters of the Red Flame touched her brow and called her the 13th. She had run, hidden herself inside another name, buried the ember in flesh, in family, in prayer. Yet the fire smouldered still. The voices of the circle rose from the earth, calling her name, the true name, in a chorus of ash and blood. Anne Helene, daughter of the grove, flame of the last circle, breaker and vessel. And then, from the pit, Elias's voice, soft and broken. "You could have told me." She opened her eyes and saw his face again, pale and lost, threaded through the roots. "You could have let me burn with you." Tears streamed down her face. "I was afraid," she whispered. Joan stepped forward. Her body no longer moved like a child's. She walked like the wind, slow and inevitable. "She doesn't want your fear," she said. "She wants your fire, the last of it." Martha looked down at her hands. The red light pulsed beneath her skin. She hadn't noticed it before, or maybe she had and simply called it grief. She closed her eyes and she remembered the old rite, not the one of return, the one of ending. "I'm not your vessel," she said. Joan blinked. Martha, Anne Helene, gritted her teeth and pulled herself upright, fighting the roots that wrapped her chest. She spit blood into the pit. "I am your flame," she said, "but I am also your firebreak." The thing in the pit shrieked. Martha reached into the hearth behind her, what was left of it, and pulled out a single ember, glowing with holy fire. The Bible she had burned, the cross, the salted wood. She crushed it to her chest and burned. The fire erupted through the cabin, through the cellar, through the roots, through the hollow. It did not burn like normal flame. It howled. It consumed without mercy or smoke. The red berries turned black. The tree wailed as its veins caught. The stones cracked in the circle. The children screamed, then vanished like breath from glass. Joan stood in the doorway, watching. Her face did not twist in fear. She only bowed her head. Then she, too, was gone. The snows fell hard that winter. When the villagers came months later, they found the cabin burned to stone and ash. No sign of Martha, no sign of Joan, no bones, no fire circle. Even the rowan tree was gone, as if it had never grown at all. Only the earth in a wide ring remained black, as if scorched by something not of this world. And each year, after the first frost, red berries still appeared on that hilltop. But they never lasted. The crows would not touch them. The wind always wept there. Years later, a traveler once found a small girl wandering at the edge of Rowan Hollow. She was barefoot in the snow, singing an old lullaby in a language no one remembered. He took her into town, gave her bread, asked her name. She looked up with bright dark eyes and said, "I've had many, but you can call me Joan. Some fires never die. Some names refuse to be buried. And when the wind howls through forgotten woods, remember, the trees are listening." This was Ashes of the Rowan, a tale written exclusively for Mystery Still Prevails. If you felt the chill, like something watching from the trees, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because the deeper you dig, the more the mystery still prevails.